When I was little, I was obsessed with app games. That's probably not any news to a lot of you. Most of us in this age group were probably those types of kids who'd run up to your aunts and uncles and cousins and just stare at them like,
"You got any games on your phone?"
But as much as I did like Temple Run and cute little dressed-up games and Talking Tom like most kids, I was much more into RPGs or long-term collection builder type games, if that makes sense. I downloaded every game that I could find that even looked remotely dragon-related. I played all the free Enosia RPGs that I could get my hands on. I tried Elvenar for a while before I got tired of it. But today, I'm here to talk about 3 of my favorite and/or most nostalgic of them all. I'm also going to be making some cute little doodles as I go, so stick around to the end to see how those turn out. I'm actually really proud of them. Anyway, let's stop delaying and get on to... This is one of those dragon-related collection builder or whatever games that I was just talking about. Is that a genre? I can't imagine it is. Anyway, this was one of the dragon breeding games that got, like, really popular. Like, how long ago was it? 5-10 years ago? Or maybe even before that. Time goes too fast. Anyway, I'm sure you've heard of Dragon City. That game's still going strong even today, which I don't understand because, like, I enjoyed it a lot too. Don't get me wrong about that. But Dragon Story was top tier for me. My sister enjoyed Dragon's World specifically the best, but I don't know, I just can't get past the gorgeous 2D cartoon artwork of Dragon's Story. All the little lore bits were great, the mechanics of the game felt more or less fair, and while grinding was kind of the point of the game, it didn't feel so egregious that I was constantly aware of time being wasted or padded out. Now, you do have to keep in mind that this assessment was from whenever I was like, I don't know, 7, so I didn't have the best critique skills. So I decided to download Dragon's Story from an APK file so I could get some screenshots and screen recordings and I could see how the games maybe become kind of dated and probably wouldn't be as good to me if I hadn't grown up with it. But I still think it stands as a really cute little game anyway. Dragon's Story was a simple game when it first started out. It's still pretty simple, actually, now that I think about it, like, compared to a lot of the other Dragon games that I've tried. Which is why I like it so much. But still, like, there's just been a lot of feature creep. I revisited a few years back, and even then, like, the feature creep was bad. I actually feel like it's gotten better, but maybe that's just because I started. Anyway, I have yet to see any of that in this early playthrough yet, but at its essence, this game is still a pretty simple premise. You collect these little elemental dragons first, and then grow and breed them to mix the elements and get different dragons. All dragons were vegan for some reason. You'd feed them like all these little fantasy fruits and vegetables, and when you leveled them up enough, you could evolve them in this giant crystal structure and they'd grow up a stage, after which you could start breeding them with other dragons and mix more elements, and you could see where this is going. There are like so many dragons. I don't remember how many there were at launch, but as it stands, there, according to the wiki, there are 2,202 dragons, and apparently, I guess, that number must still be growing if the game is available from the iOS App Store, and still somewhat has multiplayer functionality. Like, the game's not dead, to my absolute surprise. Like, I thought I was going into a graveyard, but no. While some of the dragons have a base design that they're slightly altered off of, a good majority of them have completely unique, charming little 2D designs with the cutest little baby animations. Ugh, I love dragons so much. Dragons were like my thing as a kid. The way some kids get really into warrior cats or, I don't know, trains. Dragons were my thing. I didn't read or write or draw anything unless it connected back to a dragon somehow. So you can imagine how much I loved this game, even though I was way too young to have the type of patience it took to really expand and grow your dragon island. I did have a few epic form dragons though, so take that as you will. If you want to try it out, I found the APK file on APK Pure, and like obviously if you're going to be downloading random app files off of third parties, be smart about it. I'm not going to be sitting here telling you how to do that word for word because I don't know the intricacies, and I don't want to be responsible if you get like a virus or something. I mean, I didn't, as far as I know, but like, still, I'm not responsible for that. But I did find the latest version up on that site, and it seems safe so far, so if you're willing and interested, you can get it on an Android phone still. Or, you know, just be rich and have an Apple phone, because they apparently still have it in their app stores. I wouldn't know. I had a really hard time choosing which dragons to draw for this one since there are just so many I love, but I asked around and these two won out. They're called a fruitful dragon and a fairy dragon, and I think they ended up really cute together, even if I did end up making the fairy's legs a little too, like, long and chunky. Like, I don't know, something's just off about her anatomy. Maybe she's just been getting into too many fire apples. Well, here they are, and I hope I reach someone out here who remembers this game just as fondly as I do. Or maybe you even play it today. Brave Frontier was a bit of a different beast. It was one of those turn-based RPG type things where you summon warriors and form your team. Like, there's a million of those. But what made it stand out to me as a kid was the art style. Brave Frontier seemed to kind of be known for its over-the-top, bombastic character design, and while it stayed reasonable in the early days, Power Creep slowly introduced more and more intricate designs for higher-level units, until they were like this eye-bleeding, headache-inducing mishmash of elements and saturated colors and particle effects. Not to say that the art was bad at all in any sense, in fact, I quite believe the opposite. The artists themselves were very skilled and had a clear sense of identity, and even though these designs got like way too crowded and insane, that doesn't negate the skill and finesse necessary to draw all those little details. Anyway, I was not in Brave Frontier's target audience. First and foremost, I was enamored with the collection aspect of the game rather than the combat, or especially the PvP. I enjoyed the fighting portion, sure, but like, I just as often just got annoyed or tired of it. On the flip side, I'd often spend a long time just going through my collection of units so I could look at their art and read their little lore sections. Brave Frontier had a sprawling story hidden behind bits and pieces of lore hints in the main story of the campaign, and though it got a bit too messy to really put together with time, you could easily latch onto some parts of it. Each unit had their own story that would progress as you evolved them, and some of the bigger, rarer ones had tragic stories of what ultimately led to their deaths in the last great war against the gods. However, looking back at all the artwork and units, I can't help but realize, there was a lot of anatomy in this game. I like to collect all the units I found pretty or particularly cool, so I have a pretty clear memory and nostalgia for a lot of these female units, because I like their designs, but I didn't realize as a kid how like low-key disproportionate the designs were. Let's just say it's pretty clear their target audience was probably young adult men and not little girls, but oh well. I enjoyed it a heck of a lot regardless, and I still love a lot of these designs today, even if they did absolutely butcher Selena's design in her ultimate version. Just, no. Selena would not wear a bra into battle, and you can't convince me she would. Hashtag not my Selena. I also remember the game had this little crafting mechanic where you could collect lots of little resources, and all the resources had like entirely way more detail in their little lore sections than they needed. But me being a little sucker for those things, I loved collecting and scrolling through those too. I swear this is like the warning signs that you might be an Animal Crossing enjoyer when you get older, or do all the silly things I do like collect rocks and glass bottles as an adult. I mean, can you blame me for loving the art in this game though? It's so bouncy and expressive and stylized. Like what I would pay to see some of my favorite characters in this art style. Overall, I really miss this game. And just like Dragon's Story, if I had the chance, I'd download it again and play faithfully in a heartbeat. Maybe now that I'm older, I could actually grasp the fighting portions and complete the campaign, and play the game that you're really meant to play it. But I guess we'll never know until Brave Frontier Recoded comes out, if it ever does. I picked 2 of my favorite units to draw this time, though it was hard because I had a lot of candidates that I was really going back and forth on, and I might come back and draw some of them in my free time, but these 2 were really nostalgic for me. I went with Healer Priestess Marith and Fire Witch Liza because I thought those 2 things were funny together, and because they were a good fire and water opposites duo. Marith was surprisingly easy to draw, at least in this unevolved form. Just look at this final evolution thing. But Liza had a lot of these little, edges and details and accessories to keep track of. I think I missed that she's supposed to have on, white stockings, maybe? But it's sort of up to interpretation, so I'm going to say she doesn't and leave it at that. I had way too much fun drawing her little skull on her waist, too. Sadly, Brave Frontier, though you can find the APK online still, it has no online servers anymore. You have to sign in to play, so unfortunately, even if you have the app installed, there's no way to play it offline or single player. Believe me, I have tried. So I guess you and I will just have to live with abandoned memories for now, unless Brave Frontier Rewritten actually goes anywhere, in which case you can bet I'll be back. Hope you enjoyed these little cuties. So, out of all 3 of these games, this is the only one that I wouldn't want to return to. You might ask, Lexi, why is this on the list? Why include it in this video about games you love and have deep nostalgia for? Well, I have very good memories of the game. I also like a lot of the games made by the company, how do you pronounce that? Come to us? I'm gonna say that. But I did a little revisit of Summoner's War just a few years back, and all the feature creep just did not appeal to me. I also just didn't like that the fighting and animations enough to return, despite having good memories of a select few designs. I never did get very far in Summoner's War because I'd always just uninstall it when I got bored, so I never did get super attached to a lot of the units, or monsters as the game called them. But I did have a pretty deep fondness for one of the first available ones, a fairy. You can have different element fairies, but the water fairy's color palette was almost always my favorite, just because I love blue. So that's who I decided to draw here. More specifically, the evolved form who gets the name Elucia. Summoner's War is in that really weird place in my nostalgia tier list because I don't remember a real tangible love for any of the game's aspects. But I remember playing it as a kid and having a reasonably good time at the same time. A look through the game a few years later, and also a quick Google search on the game, reveals that it's fallen a little bit off, I think. But that's to be expected of an app of this age. Its loving creator, Come To Us, seems to have been facing a few financial problems in recent years, maybe? Though I couldn't find any good sources as to exactly what financial problems and to what severity. But I can say that they've taken nearly all their good games off the Android App Store, so maybe that means something. The Enosha Chronicles series, notably, has been all but eradicated except for Enosha 4. And they used to have so many little survival and farming sim type games that they're just not there anymore. I have to wonder if that's why Summoners War has gotten so bloated feeling and apparently money hungry, if fans online are to be believed. It's sad, but it really just is the natural lifespan of any app, and at least we'll always have the screenshots and models to look at once the whales start dropping out and the game goes under. Anyway, here's my fan art for Elucia, my favorite monster, and a character I definitely did not write shipping fanfiction about in 5th grade. Yes, it was with Vagabond. No, I don't have it. And no, I wouldn't share it even if I did. Those were dark, dark times. So, here's everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing about these old games I used to play and watching me do some cute little guides for them. Let me know down below what app games you used to be obsessed with as a kid. Maybe we'll have had similar experiences. Have any of you ever played the ones I mentioned here? I genuinely would love to know, and if any of you are actually still playing Dragon Story, look for Moonrose Island. I need more gold to buy my second nest. If you want to see more art I do for myself, or art from older videos, I occasionally post to my Instagram under the same name. Drop by and see if that's something you want to follow. If you liked this video, I'd suggest looking at my playlists. I have several videos that focus on weird app advertisements and other gaming-related topics. As always, thank you so much for watching, especially all the way to the end. If you had fun here today, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. A second of your time helps more than you know, and I'm grateful for everyone. With that said, I'm Lexicon, and I'll see you next time.